Hey there, I'm Mark Drager, and this is How to Sell More. It seems sometimes the fastest path to growth isn't adding more products or more services or making things more complicated. It might just actually be cutting back and going all in on one high-value offer. And that's exactly what Jack Bosch did to turn his pretty decent $2 million a year home study course into an 8-figure education and coaching empire.
If we really want to do right by this market, if we really want to help people become millionaires, we need to actually offer hands-on coaching. But going to the ascension model, it's so much brain damage. It's so hard to do this.
Now that's Jack Bosch. He's a real estate investor who transformed his business by turning the traditional ascension model completely upside down. So instead of creating this complicated product ladder that moves customers from less expensive to more expensive products or services, Jack focused on creating a premium coaching program. And it was a move that many thought was a little crazy.
I was shocked. I didn't think it actually would work. My wife brought this in and she's like, we need to try this. There's no way somebody's going to go from $0 to $50,000 in a matter of 9 days. It's like, let's try it. And of course, wife is always right.
And so today on How to Sell More, Jack Bosch shares how this bold strategy completely transformed his business. Not only did his revenues and his profits skyrocket, but his customers, they became more successful too. And the best part, he was able to build a company that now runs without him. So stick around to learn why doing a few things, but doing them exceptionally well, might be exactly what your business needs. Jack, I heard you present about a year and a half ago to a mastermind group that we're both a part of about how you essentially simplified your business and yet grew dramatically at the same time. And so I'm hoping today that you could help share some of the strategies you talked about, break down what you did within your business to transform it. But can we kick off? Can we start with you sharing what led to this decision and how did this transformation ultimately unfold?
Yeah, so obviously we're running a real estate business. So we buy and sell land. So we basically figured out a method to find people who don't want their piece of land anymore. We get them for usually really steep discounts, 10 to like 50 cents on the dollar. This is what we pay for these pieces of land. And then we turn around and we sell them and make a nice profit on it. Great. 2009, my wife and I have been doing this since 2002. 2009 comes around, we wanted to start teaching this. So we set up a separate company. We set up a home study course. We launched a home study course. Great, bring that in a short period of time, bring that business up to about $2 million. But it was a business that relied on the home study course. And very quickly, I realized that it's really hard. Now, we made that the profit purpose of this business is a little bit secondary. It's really our passion project in a way that we want to help change people's lives and we want to create millionaires. And this strategy now has created over 1,000 millionaires already. But at the end of the day, we ideally want to make a little money on this business too, right? So it's not a charity of a project, but it's a make the world better project. But in the same time, we should make a little profit too. So the point is, though, we realized very soon that making profit with that model in the educational industry, there's this model that's called the ascension model. Basically, where you sell something for $97, or sometimes they call it the lead magnet for $7, or tripwire. There's all this terminology around it that you have, like, you get something for free, then you pay for something for $7, and for $97, and for $497, then for $997, then for $5,000, and then for $25,000 or $50,000.
Let me just quickly, interrupt and jump in here. So for our listeners who are unfamiliar with this ascension model, it really works like this. You do paid advertising to build awareness of your product or service, your company, and that advertising is not going to see an ROI. You're going to lose money. So you offer something inexpensive, $100, $1,000, something inexpensive, but all you're trying to do with this is help cover some of the advertising costs, and you're trying to identify who within the people you're advertising to are actually willing to buy something off you. They're willing to put out their credit card and buy something. They're not going to just be freebies. They're willing to spend money. And then what you do is you move them from that cheap offer to a mid offer, and from a mid offer to a premium offer. You might have 3, you might have 5, you might have 10. But basically, you do this to help cover the initial cost of advertising and to help upsell people through this ascension model, essentially. That's the concept. Advertise broadly, and move people up through value where things become more and more expensive as they go. But that also helps identify who is your true and real customer.
Yes, exactly. And it's a proven model and it works, and many people have made it work, but I think it's the wrong model to implement if you want to go for fast growth. Because here's the thing, like it's ideally you want to provide, it's very hard to provide a lot of personal services for $7 or $97 or even $497 because advertising is so expensive and it eats up all your profits. So I know very, very few people that actually make money with a purely home study course-based business. Like you usually, even at a $1,500 product price, it's usually a break even or close to a break even. You make a little money, but then you need support. That's the other thing. When you bring in a whole bunch of customers at $7, $49, $97, $400, those customers are usually the most needy customers. And I don't mean that in a negative way. If somebody of my customers listen to that, we love you. But there's other customers that think that for $97, they should own you. And that's just not right. And so that's not correct. So they require a lot of customer service. So now you have to start building a team. You have to bring customer service people in. You have to do this. And very quickly, any margin you had, it gets eroded in that model. That's the world we were in. We were doing a couple of $1 million business. Profitability wasn't high because, again, we treated it a little bit more as a hobby. But at the same time, it was a good, feel-good project. And at some point of time, we said, like, you know what? If we really want to do right by this market, if we really want to help people become millionaires, we need to actually offer hands-on coaching. But going to the ascension model, it's so much brain damage. It's so hard to do this that we came up with the idea, and actually we didn't invent that. We learned it from somebody else, but we turned that idea of turning that entire thing around. So basically what we said, forget about the $7 program, forget about the $49 and the $97, the $497. We kept our $1,500 program because if somebody wanted it, they could have it, but we barely advertised it. And then we went straight up to a $30, $40, and $50,000 coaching program.
But if you're listening to this and you are in B2B or you're in a lower volume, higher margin business, I mean, let's play this forward. This is if you had maybe a $50,000 a month retainer model, a $250,000 project level, $1 million project level, and saying we're not going to do anything but just take the best of the best. Focus all of our time and effort on something that is going to be lower volume, but higher revenue, ideally higher margin, which should allow us to open up more gross profits so that way we can reinvest it to make something even better.
And that's exactly the key. So what we very quickly realized is by doing that, instead of having 1,000 customers that pay us $17 or $49, we had 100 customers that pay us $50,000 or 200 customers that pay us $50,000. So we basically grew very quickly from a $2 million company to a $5 or to a $10 million and beyond company by just focusing on that kind of a customer. But here's the thing. How many people do you actually need to deliver that service at a $50,000 level? Well, in our side, we're coaching, so we need a coach. So we build up a team of coaches. We now have 14 coaches. Those coaches get paid by the call that they do. They get paid very well, but they get paid by the call they do. It's a variable cost. So that basically, if I don't sell a coaching, I have no coaching expenses because I don't have a coach needing to coach that. We needed to build a small team of coaching management. But that team is not bigger than the customer service team we had to create before for the $17 or for the $7 or $97 people that required way more customer service. As interestingly, the people at $50,000, they have way more respect for you. They're way more respectful of your time and so on. And they actually don't think they own you. They're excited to work with somebody of our caliber and they're respectful of it. They schedule their things. They're much more successful and our success rate was much higher. Because if you sell a course for $999, for $1,000 or $1,500, most people don't even open that course. But if somebody pays $50,000, they're going to better sure that they get their money's worth. So they consume it, they work with us, they work closely with us, and so on. So we created a really, really intensive coaching program that includes a whole bunch of one-on-one sessions with their one-on-one coach, which is a full-blown, which is usually our people that went through our coaching program. They're full-time land flippers now, and they are excited to contribute a portion of their time back to help the next generation up to millionaire status. Then we added daily group coaching calls. Like this is a scalable business because it doesn't matter if one person attends or 500, it's the same one person teaching it for an hour and a half. So 5 days a week, there's group coaching. We added a hotline that people can call in, but the same coaching management team can call the hotline, because even though we might have 200 coaching students, we only get 3 phone calls a day. So it's not something that you don't need a huge team for that. So we were able to, but what it allowed us to do is actually add staff, like, for example, accountability partners, people whose sole job is to make sure people don't fall off the bandwagon. People whose sole call is to call people like, what are you struggling with? I see you haven't attended one of the group coaching sessions for 3 weeks. What's going on in your life? How can I help you, get you back excited, get you back on the train? For $97, you don't have money for that. For $1,000, you don't have money for any of that. So it allowed us to basically pour resources into customer care, customer success, into additional kind of things. Now we even do marketing for our people. We take a portion of what they pay us and we start lead generating for them, so that we hand them leads on a silver platter. All they need to do is make offers and follow up a little bit and get deals under contract to get them started. We can do that because at $50,000, we can take a few thousand or $5,000 and start marketing for that. At $1,000, it's a home study course. You go figure out how you do it yourself. Even though the home study course is world class, there's no money left on our end to actually provide really hands-on support. It just is not, because once you add a few people in there, overhead is really high. Plus advertising eats up 90% of that already anyway. So what we did is, and the way we implemented that was through launches, and we did 5-day challenges where over 5 days we explained people how this works. They have lots of chance of answering questions, really get to know us, get to feel us, get to see that we're sincere about this. And then the sales, the program that we present is $50,000. And then I was shocked. I didn't think it actually would work. My wife brought this in and she's like, we need to try this. There's no way somebody's going to go from $0 to $50,000 in a matter of 9 days. It's like, let's try it. And of course, wife is always right. She was right. And because she's the co-founder of our business and she is smarter than I am, obviously. So we implemented it and it succeeded, and it succeeds to this day. So that was step number 1, because after being able to do that, we were able to grow this to that level. The second step now, though, is that there's actually nothing wrong with the ascension model. But the ascension model works best if you have something big already that produces so much revenue that now you can use a little bit of that revenue to develop different kind of programs that are also really great, that plug into the same infrastructure. And now we actually are doing the ascension model. We are spending advertising, and we have programs that still have nothing that starts under $1,000, but we have $1,000. We have a $5,000 program. We have that $25,000 program. We have programs that we have backfilled, because as we were doing this, we realized that people do want smaller programs. But the point is now, because we focused on that main program, we have enough money in the system that we can actually create the other programs. And we have the team in the system that we can fulfill these other programs without adding additional cost. And that's the problem. The problem when you try to do it the way I said up front, that you try first creating the $7, then the $49, then the $500, then the $1,000 program, you'd never have enough money to create something amazing up on top, because you're constantly running out of money, because all the money goes for advertising and just general overhead. By turning this around and creating something big first, and that is so attractive that actually people will sign up for it, then we did it. Now you have the money to actually also provide something for everyone else. And that's actually the much better solution, in my opinion.
I love this approach because it reminds me of Gordon Ramsay's playbook. In the original, I'm not talking about the American, Kitchen Nightmares where he's swearing and yelling all the time. The original British Kitchen Nightmares, if you go back and watch that series from 25 years ago, he would come in, he would look at a restaurant situation, he would identify their strengths and their weaknesses and what their team is actually capable of, and then he would pare everything back on the menu to just a few items, but a few excellent items that they can consistently deliver time after time after time with their existing team. And then that would help build the foundation. And what you've described to me seems to follow a really similar philosophy. Create a focused product with better margins, reinvest those profits to improve delivery, and then hire the right team. But from your original presentation, if we go back, I recall that it wasn't just about product development. The next critical steps was building that proper leadership team, right? You work to develop different management levels and surround yourself with these high caliber people so you could operate at this 8-figure company rather than staying stuck in that $2 million a year mindset. Like, was that your next major move?
That is right. And thank you for reminding me. Well, it's been a year and a half since I did the presentation. So I kind of sometimes take things for granted at that point that we were just living in this world. But yes, that's the other benefit. Not only do you have the money to then build additional programs and really build the best program in the world out there, that our success rates are like 4 times the average, the industry average. And basically, there's always a certain percentage of people who will not do anything you ask them to do. But if I take those out, we're pretty much getting 90+% of the people that want to have success to success. And that means basically that the few percent that don't have success is because they just don't do anything. But so that speaks for itself that it worked. But yes, the other part of it is then in order to, by doing that, by offering this higher end program, you have the profitability to actually go from and especially in the coaching business, most coaching businesses are actually not businesses. Most coaching business is somebody who coaches and has a few people that help them, right? And they call that a business. And that was my business too at the beginning. I mean, I'm not exempting myself, but it allowed us to actually create a real business. So now we have a real leadership team. We have a VP of sales and a sales team of 5 people. We have a VP of marketing and a marketing of 4 or 5 people. Actually, if you add a few extra people to it, 6, 7 people. We have a head of technology because we have a CRM software that developed from scratch. That CRM team has a team of 7 people and currently an extra 5 because we're redeveloping it completely, right? Or like redeveloping, making it much more user-friendly and bringing it back to the 21st century. Like looked a little goofy before, we're rolling this out in the next couple of weeks. But all these things, we now have money for it. And we have a director of technology that's in charge of all of that, right? We have a head of coaching that with a coaching management team. And as a result, I was able to earlier this year, I was able to take 3 months and take a sabbatical and go to Europe. And of these 3 months, I was spending 35 days on something called the Camino de Santiago, which is basically a pilgrimage to Spain. And I basically walked 500 miles in the course of 35 days. In those 35 days, I attended 1 team meeting. That's it. Only 1 team meeting. And during that time, we did promotions, we did webinars, we did live things, and the team ran everything. I didn't have to be involved anymore. And that's really the definition of a business. And then afterwards, my family joined me and we spent 2 more months traveling to Europe. And during that time, we worked some. We rented a place in Milan, Italy, and for a week an Airbnb. And we ran a promotion from there because the business needed me every once in a while still to come in. But other than that, we were basically in those 3 months, I probably worked 3 weeks. That's about it. The rest of the time, we truly took off. And that is because, again, the same exact model that allowed us to grow quickly and grab the profitability also then allowed us to actually put leadership team members in place that run everything, that have great visions, that have great executions. And now I just show up to these promotions and more or less just show up for these promotions or create an occasional advertising video and things like that. And I had much more time to focus on other things in life.
So looking back on this, I think that price sensitivity, the amount of profits a business might make, pricing just from a psychological point of view, being competitive, I think business owners struggle with this often because we can do benchmarks relative to our competition. We understand what our margins are. We understand what our expenses are. Many times there might be things, I'm thinking if you're in any kind of commodity-based business, where you're at the whim of what's happening with foreign exchange, what's happening with commodities, what's happening with raw materials or raw goods, what's happening with inflation and the need to be able to pay staff more. Often, small and medium-sized businesses especially don't have enough profits to be able to grow the way that you have. So I'm curious, now that you're looking back on this, how do you feel about what profits actually means to a business?
I mean, they're the lifeblood of business. It's not even sales, it's profits, because there are a lot of businesses that do have a lot of sales, but then have no profitability whatsoever. So the economy did recede for us. Like when interest rate raised, when interest rate shot up, naturally speaking, we're in the B2C market. Our customers are a successful entrepreneur who is sick and tired of what he's doing and wants to get out somewhere else. So a manager, an attorney, a stay-at-home mom that homeschooled their kids, but now wants to get back into business. And it's different kind of people. Like usually the most successful people for us are people that have already been successful in something in life. But when the interest rates went up, a lot of people shied back because real estate wasn't the cool kid on the block anymore. So our business has receded a little bit. So we've actually shrunken from revenue. We've gone down in the last couple of years. But the good news is we did have those larger profits. So we could use some of that to come up with new replacement product. And our products have shifted. Now we actually do have a full palette of products right now, as I mentioned. And now the market today demands a little bit more of the ascension model. So we do much more people. There's much less people today that are willing to just pay the $50K. Instead, they want to start at $5K. So we needed to react to the market too. So we're not immune to market condition. It sounds beautiful, but in the market condition we were back then, that worked really well. In the market conditions today, I still think it works to start with something that is above $79 or $97. It starts with something at $5,000 or $10,000 because we're doing really well selling a $5,000 product, and then 20% of those people upsell to the $25,000 to $50,000 program and realize, because what they're doing in this market is they're checking out, well, let me see if you guys are really real. Let me dip my toe in. Like people are more careful with their money, which I don't blame them for. So they're dipping their toe in, they're seeing that they're being overwhelmed with value, and they're like, whoa, this is real. And then they have no problem spending the money. So the market has changed a little bit, but from a point of profitability is key. So as we did this, we also realized that we had overhired. We had overhired significantly because we're on a trajectory to even higher growth. But then the market shifted on us. We actually shrank by like 20% over the last 2 years, which is not bad considering what the industry's done. There's like half of the education, the coaching people industry went out of business in the last couple of years, but we're still profitable here and doing really well. And I think we're at the bottom right now, and it's only going to go up. So we had to restructure our team a lot too, but the nice part is with a management team, you actually can do that. So my view on, without losing actually the quality of the coaching, we just had overhired on certain positions. So we got rid of a lot of fat that we have built up, which is, I mean, everyone knows that once you're in the good times, you build up some fat, and lesson learned, right? But profits, I mean, are key. You cannot keep an eye on profits. You got to do this profitably unless you have some really long-term view that you're like, you look at Amazon. Amazon wasn't profitable for the first 10 years, and now it's obviously...
Well, if you're VC-backed or PE-backed or...
That is a different story. If you're backed by your own money, you got to keep an eagle's eye on your profitability every single month. But again, when we changed the model, the first thing we added was a $25,000 program that costs us, where the fulfillment cost is very, very low. But the program is amazing because what we're doing is we're plugging the $25,000 people into 80% of what the $50,000 people get, with the exception of the one-on-one coaching, which of course is tremendous value, right? But everything else they get at half the price, right? So they're hugely successful in the program. And the $5,000 program is still hands-on and is still including us once a week. They get us and they get questions answered and they get trained and they get coached and so on. So we have a lot of people in the $5,000 program that are successful. But the point is the fulfillment cost, again, is minimal. The extra fulfillment cost is zero for the company because the people that fulfill the $5,000 program are already in the team. And they're already paid for by the overall kind of program. So adding that program in requires no extra cost to us. So we were able to, even while revenues were shrinking, by offering different kind of programs, we were able to keep the profitability pretty high. And yeah, profitability is key. You got to keep an eye on that. Otherwise, I mean, you're bleeding to death, and nobody can survive that. So it's a key item. But again, even there, the structure that we built helped keep us tremendously profitable.
And so if you had to do this again, I'm curious, one, what you would move a lot quicker at, because maybe you realized You've built up some confidence. Maybe some of the things that you were afraid of happening didn't happen, didn't come to pass. But if you had to do this again, what would be some things that you might rush into a little quicker? And what would be some the hard lessons that you would avoid?
So hindsight is always 2020. I think what I would be, the market conditions were really amazing for us in particularly 18, 19, and then particularly 2021 when COVID hit. COVID was like a disaster, obviously, for health and everything, but it was a blessing for our business because people sat at home and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm about to get laid off again. Let me go do something else. Or just simply being at home gave them extra time and not being able to go anywhere. They were captive and they were there. And I wish we would have gone 3 times bigger in with marketing and advertising and everything during that time than we did. We could have probably spent 5 times as much in advertising and had 5 times as much sales and grown even bigger and faster. On the other hand, I had never built a company like that, so I didn't know. We were trying and trial and error in the background to make sure that we provide the best coaching program in the world. So we overhired a whole bunch of positions that we could have gotten away. We hired 15 accountability partners, and we could have done with 2 or 3. Right? Because we were preparing for even faster growth. And some of them, because we're virtual, didn't really do what we asked them to do and kind of like did the minimum. And by the time we figured out, we let 12 go or we overhired. If I would be careful, I would hire a little slower and I would really focus more on the efficiencies of the program with each other and so on, because we probably wasted a couple $1 million just in payroll.
Of course, when you're in a bubble or in a bull run, it's kind of hard to tell how long it'll last. I know for myself, I'm fairly conservative financially in terms of investments. I like to keep a lot of cash on hand. I like to focus on profitability. And I can tell you, like 14 through 18, I felt like I was not leveraging leverage enough. I felt like I was we know that recessions hit on a 7-year cycle, give or take. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I survived 2008, 2009, barely survived. And so I almost had PTSD about massive recessions. And so as we went through 16, as we went through 17, as we went through 18, I was pulling back because I was waiting for the shoe to drop. I was preparing for this big thing that would happen, and it never happened. And then 2020 happened, and 21 and 22, and I'm glad that I was as conservative as I was. So when you're in a bubble, and when you're in one of these runs, one, you don't know how long it'll last. And you just don't, I think it would be very ballsy to 5 times your marketing spend in sales mid.
I mean, that's why I'm saying that hindsight is 2020.
You could just grow yourself out of business, essentially, right?
Yeah, hindsight is 2020. We're like, oh my God. And at that point, we obviously were profitable and we enjoyed that part of it too. We were changing lives. And at this point, we're like, profit is like, do we just pour it all back in? Or do we actually enjoy some of the profitability? Because there were years before particularly when we're doing the old ascension model, where we're just losing money. We're not profitable because it's hard to make money if you're just selling people, if you're just offering like $97 programs and going up from there. So we're like, hey, this is really great. So we chose to invest more in even more customer support, but then we realized that the customers actually didn't need that kind of support. They needed different kind of support. And that's when we then changed into less overhead and so on and so forth, so on the savings side. But yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020, but exactly right. We're like, okay, how long is this going to go? How long is this going to go on? We need to keep some powder in the safe, because if things come back down again, then we want to have some reserves and so on. And so I'm not in aftermath. If I would have been in the same situation today again, it's hard. It's hard to go full in. And when you're doing well and things are growing so fast that you actually have a hard time catching up organization-wise. That's the other thing. It's like, I don't even know if we could have handled that 5 times extra or 3 extra growth. Like, we would have perhaps fallen apart in the seams, and we would have gotten bad reviews, and we've gotten unhappy customers. And so should we have perhaps a little more? But there's also other factors like that play a role that made us not go faster. But I'm happy with what we did.
I'm thinking about business owners who might be listening to this and thinking, this all sounds great, but I just don't have the margins to work with. Like when markets changed for you, you had to adapt, right? So for those business owners who feel trapped with tight margins, who think that they can't maybe simplify the number of products, services, or offerings, like what did you learn? How can they improve what they're offering without breaking the bank?
So my advice would be to really look at how you can offer additional programs or other things without them costing you extreme amounts in fulfillment. Like the efficiency, what again, as market, as we like 2021, 22, the market was, everything was beautiful, like wonderful, everything was growing like crazy. 23 and 24, the market started contracting again for us. So as I said, what we have done is we looked at ways that we can offer now in between programs that without adding a whole bunch of overhead to it, ideally with adding no overhead to it. So the group coaching that we offer, the 5 group coaching calls a week that we offer, they're already happening. They're already happening for our VIP coaching students that do the one-on-one. They're already getting those 5 times a week group coaching. So now the group coaching people, we plug them into those same sessions, so the extra cost is zero. Right? Our team and the management team, since we have less customers, the management team of the coaching has less to do. So let's add to them the ability to take phone calls on the hotline. Because they know what we're doing. They know exactly how it works. They're experts. So now they have bandwidth to be hotline. So now we added an extra value that people can actually call us in between the one-on-ones, in between the group coaching calls. They can simply call in. It's like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And then we build a triage system where they say, okay, if you need this, I need you to use this document and it solve it, or I need you to watch this video, or let me schedule a quick phone call with this person who is an expert on it, and you do a quick 15-minute phone call. None of that costs extra money. So the point is, instead of doing more and coming up with more programs, perhaps eliminate those that perhaps cost more effort than they are worth, and just instead, it's not more is better is better. So that might be the answer here. But the other thing is, you'll be surprised if you have a whole lot of things to offer. People are confused if you have too many offers. They don't even know what they should take. You need to tell them. I'm telling people, you need to be in our VIP program, because that's the program that will propel you to success. Only if you cannot afford the VIP program should you consider one of the other programs. They're also fantastic, but the VIP program is the best. So we're positioning our entire company for the VIP program. And I think that's just a positioning. That doesn't mean the other programs went away. You want to buy our $1,000 home study course? You can. We actually, when we did the Ascension model, we had a $97 mini home study course. We still have it. If somebody says, all I have is $100, well, go get this. It's just no longer advertised. It's no longer understood. So focus your offerings, like Dave Ramsey, as he said, like you can't afford to offer everything and so on. I understand, but then try to find ways to deliver them in ways that cost you less, but don't cut down on the service experience, or consolidate them, bring them together, create bigger bonus package that you can charge a premium for, and which really consists of what you're already doing. So you're not reinventing the world. You're taking this plus this right now stands this is 1,000, this is 1,000, this is 1,000. You add those 3 together and add some extra things, and now it's a $6,000 program.
I love it. Bundling. I mean, we've seen this in telecom, right? You know, phone plus internet plus cable TV. You take 3 different product lines, you move them together, give some kind of bonus or discount for volume.
Yeah.
This has been great. I really do appreciate you coming in and being willing to open up about something that most business owners wouldn't want to speak about publicly. So, Jack, I really want to thank you for that. Now, I do have one final question for you. It's what I like to end every podcast episode with. So if you're ready for it, if you could give us just one tip or strategy to help us sell more, what would that be?
One tip or strategy to help you sell more. What has worked really well for us early on and continues to work well is the concept of community. So what I mean by that is nobody trusts anyone out there anymore. There's so much noise, there's so much garbage, there's so much, look at this, they're so cool, things like that. What people trust is in word of mouth and in other people's experiences. So one of the reasons we were able to grow, the first few years we grow after, like, we were a $2 million company forever. And then we started 2016, we started focusing on one thing first. And that one thing was community. So we created a Facebook group. And during that time, nobody in the educational space, particularly the real estate educational space, where a lot of coaches out there have a 10% success rate, right? And then because their business model is designed, like we said, they don't have money to provide really good service. So as a result, it's crappy services, crappy programs, and people are not succeeding with it. They were afraid of their own customers. So the last thing they wanted was their customers to be all grouping together in a Facebook group and commiserating about the lack of support and the lack of success they had. Well, we did the exact opposite. We created a Facebook group, which we're just about to rename into Land Profits Nation. Right now, it's called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group, but it's going to be the Land Profits Nation. And in that group, we brought all our prospects and customers in, and we went live 3 times a week. And we're still, I went away from it for a while, but now as of next week, I'm going live again every week, at least once. And then a couple of our team members go once a week live. So we're again going 3 times a week live in the group, with tips, with strategies, with Q&As, with celebrations, with things like that. And in order to show the audience that we're real and that we care, because we're real and we care, right? Actually, it's one of our mottos, we care more. So my tip would be, it's really foundational. It's really simple. It's not a hack. It's not a gimmick. It's not a thing. It's just simply connect in this world of AI, in this world of robocalls, in this world of fake pictures and all this kind of stuff. What people are craving is real human connection. No matter what your business are, people at the end of the day buy from other people. You get a government contract because you become friends with a government person, or you meet them in person. It's not just because the best profile, it's because they trust that you're the best person to actually implement it. They trust that you're the best agency to make this happen. And if they're not experts in what you're selling, if they would be expert, they wouldn't need you. Because they're not experts and they don't know how to really judge an expert. That's the thing. They don't know how. I don't know if one agency is better than another. Well, what I can go by is if one agency or one service provider or one producer tells me on an ongoing basis, comes in and tells me the benefits of, here's how you do that, and here's what you want to be careful with here, and here's how you do this, and gives me all this knowledge and tips for free, I'm going to be like, I can trust that person. Let me hire them over the others. It's a longer approach. It requires consistency. But that alone, in the first 3 years that we applied it, grew our business from 2 to 3 to 4.5 to $6 million without spending $1 in advertising.
And that was Jack Bosch, real estate investor, co-founder of Land Profit Generator, and author of the best-selling book, Forever Cash: Break the Earn Spend Cycle, Take Charge of Your Life, Build Everlasting Wealth. You can find Jack's book wherever books are sold and learn more about his work over at jackbosch.com. Before we go, I want to thank you for listening. In a world where it seems like we have to do everything for everyone, there's something really powerful about Jack's experience and story about just doing fewer things better. Because sometimes the path to more profits isn't about doing more. It's actually about doing less, but just doing it really, really well. If you found value in today's talk, I would love to hear your thoughts. You can shoot me your questions. And of course, I'm open to topic suggestions. Hearing from listeners really does make my day. And you can connect with me and find me over on LinkedIn. If this is your first time listening, I hope you'll join us again. Maybe consider subscribing. Each week, we share fresh sales and marketing ideas and proven strategies from industry experts and seasoned entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Mark Drager. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.